For the last 5 years, Americans have been inundated with warnings about losing our freedom because of terrorism. Others have countered that we are in danger of losing our freedom from the government's measures against terrorism. They both have a point, but I think they're both missing the point as well. The greatest threat to our freedom today comes from within. It is the government's destruction of our families and our children. Islamic radicalism may be creating what Samuel Huntington calls a clash of civilizations, but the government's war against the family strikes at the social basis of all civilization. The divorce regime is not only a threat to social order, but also to civic freedom. What is happening today is much more serious than simply unfairness or gender bias against fathers in divorce cases. It is the government's machine for destroying the main rival and check on its power, which is the family. The most basic human rights and constitutional protections are routinely destroyed and violated in America's family courts. The lives of parents and children are in serious danger, as we learned from Wilbur Street, once they are, as the phrase is, taken into custody. Today in America, American citizens who are legally unimpeachable, who are under no suspicion of wrongdoing, who are sitting in their own homes minding their own business, can be forcibly summoned to legal proceedings and find themselves stripped of their children and subject to criminal proceedings. Americans today are subject to criminal proceedings not for public crimes, but for how they conduct their private lives. Without any action on their part, American citizens are being turned into criminals in ways they are powerless to avoid. Without demonstrating you have committed any legal transgression, government officials can now enter your home, examine your private papers and effects, empty your bank account, throw you out of your home, jail you without trial, and most serious of all, take away your children. The police state methods used by the divorce industry are not a future possibility. They are the present reality. I want to give you a short list of the practices that are routine in what used to consider itself the freest society on earth. Mass incarcerations without trial or charge, forced confessions, children forcibly separated from parents who have done nothing wrong, and parents stripped of their children without explanation. Government agents entering the homes and examining the private papers of innocent parents. Official court records, including hearing tapes and transcripts, are doctored and falsified with the knowledge of court officials, and evidence is fabricated against the innocent. Defendants are denied the constitutional right to face their accusers. Bureaucratic police are authorized to issue arrest warrants and subpoenas against parents with no hearing. Special courts are created specifically to process parents for political offenses. Forced labor facilities are being created specifically for parents. Children are instructed to hate their parents with the backing of government officials. Children are forced to act as informers against their parents with the backing of government officials. Children are abused and killed with the support of government officials. Knowingly false allegations. I could go on and on about this. We heard the story of Wilbur Street. Parents are often jailed without trial, and in one case, at least one case, fatally beaten, the case of Brian Armstrong, and then others are denied medical attention while they are in police custody. Parents are ordered by government officials to separate from their spouses on pain of losing their children. Parents are ordered to pay the private fees of officials they have not hired, whose services they have not sought or used, on pain of incarceration. And I could go on and on. Crooked and rapacious courts are nothing new in America, even in free societies. They usually begin as irregular courts, courts that demand some kind of, to bypass the established protections. And that's what family courts are. They call themselves courts of equity or courts of chancery, much like the rapacious 19th century court that Charles Dickens exposed in his book, Bleak House. But I think something more than simply crooked courts is at work here. What's happening in the divorce regime is driven by an extremist ideology and by a bureaucratic expansion, which is reminiscent of the ideological and bureaucratic dictatorships of the last century. In those regimes, what began as an ideological drive for equality or freedom or socialism or some other high-minded ideal inevitably and eventually degenerates into what is little more than a system of what we in political science call a kleptocracy, a government by thieves. The Communist Party in the Soviet Union is an excellent example of that. Today's divorce industry also advertises itself with high-minded ideals. The welfare of children, the equality of women, the need to punish evildoers. Yet likewise, it is no exaggeration to say that the family law system of this country has degenerated to the point where it is little more and nothing less than a system of organized crime.
Amen.
We have reached the stage where the lawbreakers sit on the bench and pass sentence against law-abiding citizens. Throughout this country, in virtually every jurisdiction, American citizens have been subject to what is nothing less than a quiet reign of terror. A terror that uses children as weapons against their parents. This terror is administered, as it was in the French Revolution, under Nazism and communism, by irregular courts, specialized courts, and by a bureaucratic apparatus. But never before in human history has any government created a machinery whose primary purpose is to take children away from their parents. The Nazis did it, the communists did it, but it wasn't their main purpose. It was the means to an end.